Pastor John was sharing with me just a little bit about his message today, and I was just thinking about how that connected so well with what Elisha was saying. So I think it's all going to be, y'all going to be wowed again. You're going to be wowed again. So, I do have to share with you one thing, because this may look a little odd for something for me to be wearing, but this is a dress that I bought in Israel, and I thought this is my last cool enough opportunity to wear long sleeves with summer coming, so I would bring it and show you, kind of show off to you guys. This is what they call a house dress. So this is what the ladies relax in. And so my landlady would invite me for coffee every Wednesday morning, and this is the kind of thing she would be wearing, and I'd be in my sweatpants and t-shirt. So anyway, that's why I wore this today. Also, it feels very celebratory to me, so. All right.
I don't know why I'm surprised. I'm not surprised, not really. It was very, very good. Very good. So I'm very proud of you. I can remember when we first came to congregation with you guys, and he was what, 12? Yeah, so it's just been an honor watching you grow up. I chose for today's main message to just go along with the weekly gospel. It ties into the Torah very well. I was confident that Elisha was going to bring up the specific points, and he absolutely did. Another reason why I chose that specific gospel is because we got a new book. So this is the Hebrew Gospels by Delitzsch. Delitzsch is one of those linguistic scholars. So what he did was he took the Greek and then back translated it into the Hebrew. So, and this was my first opportunity to utilize this book, and I'm not disappointed. It's really good. So, now that doesn't mean that I had a chance to go through and look at the entirety of the book, but it served my purpose for this particular message. So it's Luke 16, 1 through 13. And it covers the parable of the clever manager. Some people say, some translations call it the crooked manager. All right, so verse 1, he also said to his disciples, there was a rich man, and he had a manager over his house, whom people slandered to him, saying that he was squandering his possessions. He called to him and said, what is this that I heard about you? Give an accounting of your management, because you will not be able to be my manager any longer. The manager said in his heart, what will I do if my master takes the management from me? I am not able to hoe. I am too ashamed to go door to door. I know what I will do so that I may be taken into their houses if I am removed from my management. He called to every one of the people with whom his master had a claim. He said to the first, how much are you indebted to my master? He said, 100 vats of oil. He said to him, quickly take your bill and sit and write 50. To another he said, how much are you indebted? And he said, 100 it says core, that's bushels. Bushels of wheat, he said. Take your bill and write 80. The master praised the manager of the wrongdoing, since he behaved so cleverly. For the sons of this world are more clever in their generation than the sons of the light. I also say to you, purchase friends for yourselves with mammon of wrongdoing. so that when it is finished, they will take you into eternal dwellings. One who is faithful with just a little is also faithful with much. One who does wrong with just a little also does wrong with much. Thus, if you are not faithful with mammon of wrongdoing, who will entrust you with what is real? And if you are not faithful with what belongs to others, who will give you what is yours? No servant is able to serve two masters, for he will hate one and love the other, or he will cling to one and despise the other. You are not able to serve both God and mammon. Now, you all know I grew up in the Baptist church. Talk about parables a lot. So just as a reminder, a parable is a story to illustrate a moral viewpoint. It's not necessarily a true happening. Okay? So we want to look at this and examine it a little bit, because in the church, the last part of this is taught all the time. I mean, I use this in my business dealings. This last part. Nobody ever talks about the first part in church. So we want to look, and is Yeshua really like telling a story here that says it's okay to do wrongdoing? I think a lot of people, that's why it's not taught in a regular church, is because they look at that and they don't know how to explain it. They don't know context. So if we're looking at the context of the Hebrew culture 2,000 years ago, it takes a little bit of a different picture. So the master praised the crooked manager. But why? Because he knew how to look after himself. The manager knew how to look after himself. Streetwise people are smarter in this regard than law-abiding citizens. That's the commentary I read. I thought, that's an interesting concept from a religious perspective. So street people are smarter in this regard than law-abiding citizens. They are on constant alert, looking for angles, surviving by their wits. So Yeshua continues. He's talking to the disciples, and I get this image in my head, okay? And that image has changed since the show The Chosen has come out, because they've humanized the apostles. They've humanized Yeshua. And so I see these scenes from The Chosen where Yeshua's talking, and they're all sitting around, and two of them break out their books and they start taking notes as to what he's saying, so they can make sure that everything's written down. And then Yeshua starts talking in parables. And everybody standing around listening to him are like, what? They don't understand what he's saying. And this is a perfect example. But as the show progresses and they're exposed, then they start to understand what he was talking about with the parables. So Yeshua continues here. He says, I want you to be smart in the same way, but for what is right. So that takes us back to, what's the saying? Be wise as a serpent.
Harmless as a dove.
And harmless as a dove. So that's what he's teaching them here. So this manager was very, very wise in trying to set his future. He didn't know what was going to happen with his job. He felt like he was probably going to get fired. So he's going out to arrange for his next step. All right. It says, using every adversity to stimulate you to create survival, to concentrate your attention on the bare essentials, So you'll really live, and not complacently, just to get by on good behavior. So that also comes down to living abundantly. Not like the prosperity gospel ministers out there. You know, what do they say? You know, if you pray for it, go pray over a car and it'll be yours. But no, God wants us to live in abundance. And He's telling us what to do right here. So He continues. If you're honest in small things, you'll be honest in big things. So, right back to Torah. Yeshua was teaching Torah.
Amen.
If you're a crook in small things, you'll be a crook in big things. If you're not honest in small jobs, who will put you in charge of the store? No worker can serve two bosses. So talk about bringing that into today's society. You can't serve two bosses. You can't do two jobs well. You can do two jobs. Sure you can. But you can't become an expert in either one of them because your focus is divided. He'll either hate the first and love the second, or adore the first and despise the second. You can't serve both God and money. So let's understand this comment. 1 Timothy 6:10. For the love of money is the root of all evil. That's another one we've heard. All of our Christian life. Doesn't matter what age you started going to church in, you've heard these scriptures. Most people don't understand it. It's not money that's the root of all evil. It's not wealth that causes you problems. It's the love of money. When the love of money becomes more important than serving God, now you got problems. All right. So God is looking for single-minded people. You can't be double-minded. You can't serve God, you can't serve money, you can't serve God and serve evil. You can't not follow Torah, then expect the blessings. Okay? They're all connected. The entire Bible is connected. We have a room full of teachers. We just saw evidence of that. How old are you? 17 now? 17 years old. Powerful, powerful message. So you can serve God and receive the blessings. Okay? So this is one of the more difficult parables to understand. At first, it looks as if Jesus is condoning dishonest practices. On careful reflection, however, I don't think he is. The story is an enigma. So it looks like he is condoning bad behavior. But there are some possible explanations for the crooked manager's actions that Yeshua actually commends. One explanation is that they were overlending and reducing the reasonable debt. So a bit like our present banking crisis. We got a business expert back there who can tell you all about how banking practices work, and they're corrupt. So had the crooked manager been overlending the people and charging too much interest so that the customers had no chance to pay it back, well, if that was the case, then what he did made good business sense. He actually lowered their responsibility so it was easier for them to pay back. So that means he was securing his future endeavors. He simply made credible reductions in the bills so that the creditors were more likely to be able to pay off their bills. A second explanation was that it may well be that the crooked manager took off the interest that he had been charging. Charging interest, or usury, as it is often known, was something expressly forbidden for a Jew to do to another Jew under Old Testament law. That can be found in Deuteronomy 23:19. So to get around it, if one borrowed 400 gallons of olive oil and would sign a repayment note for 800 gallons of oil, the interest was actually charged, but it was done in such a way that it didn't look like interest. So now, reducing that debt removes the interest. And again, makes the borrower happy, securing his future. And then there's a third theory. The crooked manager who would have been entitled to a cut in the business, okay? So he simply wrote off his own cut. He's just forgiving his own share of the crooked business. But however you look at it, the crooked manager was just that. He was a scoundrel. His generosity, alleged generosity, to the creditors would never have happened if it hadn't been caught cooking the books in the first place. So he's stealing from his boss, who's stealing from the people. So he was lining his own pockets. He was not faithful to his master. So what Jesus is admitting is the shrewdness of the crooked manager. And he not only does he condone it, but he praises it. It was shrewd. It was a good thing to do. It helped the people. It's helping yourself. So now he's telling the apostles, this is kind of how you need to be in real life. You need to be wise as a serpent. So he's not commenting on the morality of the man. No servant can serve two masters. Either he'll hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to one and despise the other. So we know, we see that, we walk in that. That happens every day. You know people who are trying to serve two masters, and you see what their lives are like. So, I think my page is backwards here. There we go. So put another way, in Matthew 6:19-21, don't hoard treasure down here where it gets eaten by moths and corroded by rust, or worse, stolen by burglars. Stockpile treasure in heaven where it's safe from the moth and rust and the burglars. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be. So where is your heart? Does it belong to Yeshua? Is your life put in and devoted to honoring Torah as Yeshua has instructed us? Or is it in compiling wealth? And that's what I leave you with.